TBRI.
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 TOVD.
TBRI.
TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention.
TBRI is an attachment-based,
Trauma-informed intervention
that is designed to meet the complex needs
of vulnerable children.
TBRI uses empowering principles
To address physical needs,
connecting principles for attachment needs,
and correcting principles to disarm fear-based behaviors.
While TBRI is based on years of attachment, sensory processing, and neuroscience research,
the heartbeat of TBRI is connection.
Hello and welcome to the TBRI podcast. You're listening to Season 11, Episode 7. On this show, we talk all about TBRI, or Trust-Based Relational Intervention. We talk about different elements of the model itself and also about how TBRI is applied in various communities of care and practice. I'm Emily Pickett, producer of the podcast, and today's episode is a conversation with Susan Ramirez. What does it look like to see the needs and radically meet the needs of foster families? Well, today's guest, Susan Ramirez, is the CEO and founder of Austin Angels, a nonprofit with 19 chapters spanning 14 states that seeks to walk alongside children, youth, and families in the foster care community by offering consistent support through intentional giving, relationship building, and mentorship. In today's episode, we get to hear about Susan's introduction to TBRI. Spoiler alert, it does involve our podcast host, Sarah Mercado. We also get to hear about how Austin Angels uses TBRI to better meet the needs of families that they serve. If you are listening in real time, this episode is airing in May, which is actually National Foster Care Month here in the United States. And if you are looking for a way to get involved with kids and families impacted by foster care, Austin Angels is a great place to do that. You can visit their website at nationalangels.org to learn more. Thanks so much for listening, and please enjoy this conversation with Susan Ramirez.
Welcome to the podcast, Susan. I can't remember being this excited for an episode in a long time, although I love all of our episodes, but I just am so delighted to talk to you today.
Me too.
Thank you for being here. Do you want to start off just by introducing yourself and kind of telling us, like, how did you get to know TBRI? And then I want to dig into Angels.
Yes. So my name is Susan Ramirez, and I am the founder and CEO of an organization called National Angels, and can't wait to tell you about why I stumbled upon this unique work. But I learned about TBRI in 2010, right as I was launching our nonprofit, and had the opportunity to hear Dr. Karen Purvis speak at a conference, and was just so blown away by her and these teachings. And, you know, it was something that we were already doing organically. We didn't have the right nomenclature, language for it. And so she was able to take what we were kind of already trying to do and put it, you know, we were doing it in black and white, and she made it color, is the way that I would describe it.
Come on now. Come on. You know, I can already tell you that half of our listeners are very jealous, because so many people still to this day come to us and say, like, we so wish we had heard her speak in person, or that we had gotten in, because there was something really, really special about it. And for me, our listeners know I was a naysayer of the TBRI ways. Took me a lot of changing my own self to get there. But when that woman spoke, there was something that said, like, you need to get busy.
That's right. You were tuning in.
You were tuning in. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the origin of National Angels, how it started. It is obviously very special to me as well. So will you share a little bit about what you do and how it came to be? And then we'll talk a little bit about the programs and kind of where you are now. But the beginning is fun.
Yep, absolutely. And we haven't had an opportunity to talk, but just this week, something really magical happened. So I'll tell you about that. So there I was, 2010, minding my own business, had no vision whatsoever over my life that I was going to start a nonprofit. In fact, I had thought that the greatest, dream in my heart was just going to be to climb the proverbial corporate ladder. and spent 8 years in corporate America and had been invited to a foster and adoption conference. And I wasn't that keen on going to the foster care breakout sessions. I really felt like in my life, adoption was going to play some part. And so when I showed up at this conference, I had a little breakout session, and I had circled all of the adoption breakout classes. And the woman who invited me said, you know, I'd really like you to go and listen to this judge speak on foster care. And I said, oh, no, I'm not interested in foster care. I don't know how to let babies come into my home, love them, and then have them leave. I want nothing to do with it. Sorry. And she said, well, you know, Susan, the interesting thing about foster care is that it's not really about you.
Oh.
And wouldn't it be nice? Yes. That kind of kick in the pants, you know, everybody needs it. And it was just a moment where she said, you know, wouldn't it be nice for someone like you to open up your home to a child who so desperately needs it? And so I was like, well, that's the kick in the pants that I need. Fine, I'll go begrudgingly into a classroom and listen to a judge speak. And in my mind, Sarah, prior to this, you know, I know that judges are some of the most powerful people, and they have a lot of power over people's lives. And so in my mind, I had imagined when I heard that there was a judge speaking, I was like, you know, thinking very strong personality, very powerful. And when I went into this classroom, there was about 30 of us. And there was this man who was very gentle, very soft-spoken, very kind and tender. And I was like, who is this? You know, this is a judge? What? And he said, I am going to, this is instantly, we're sitting down, and he says very softly, I'm going to put up on a screen 2 little boys' stories. Now, these 2 little boys had come in and out of my courtroom from the time they were 2 years old until they both aged out at 18 years old. And so I'm sitting there, first introduction to foster care, know nothing about it. And it was split, the screen was split right down the middle, and had told a little boy's story on the left-hand side, a little boy on the right-hand side. And basically it had listed all of the psychotropic meds that they had been put on. Gosh. It had listed all of the abuse that was in their case file. It had listed 22 and 23 different moves. And so within minutes, you're reading things that should happen to no one, much less children. Pretty horrific stuff that we were all reading. So, you know, you could hear rumbling. People were grabbing tissues out of their bags because it was just so heartbreaking. And the judge says that the little boy on the left-hand side of the screen, no matter how many times he got moved, he did really well in school. And I don't have to belabor the statistics around the child welfare experience, but pretty abysmal outcomes for kids from an educational standpoint. And so the judge said that no matter how many times he moved, he did really well in school. And at 8 years old, the parental rights were terminated, and the little boy was eligible for adoption. And so he would go every single year to these picnics where he could meet mommies and daddies who want to adopt children. And he didn't get picked the first year. And so the second year comes around, and he says, well, gosh, I know what I can do. I'm going to be picked this year because I'm going to take my report card. And I'm going to walk up to all the mommies and daddies, and I'm going to show them, look, I make good grades. Choose me. And every year he would put his little report card in his back pocket, and he would go up to all the mommies and daddies and hand them the report card. And the judge said that he did that every single year until he turned 18 years old. And right at 18, when he was aging out, the residential treatment center director comes to him and says, son, you have been adopted. And he says, what do you mean I've been adopted? I wanted to be adopted my whole life. And he says, you've been adopted, and your father will be here soon to get you. So fast forward, the man, on the day that he meets his father, he's irons his shirt, and he's standing on the footsteps of the residential treatment center. And the father comes to him and says, son, I am sorry that it has taken me 18 years to find you, but you will never have to worry about where you go from here, that you're my son until the day that I die. And the judge says that that young man moved in with them, and they put him through school, and he put him through seminary school, and he grows up to do amazing things in his life, and creates a foster and adoption agency and places more kids in healthy, happy homes. And the judge says that that in that very moment, he says, but not everybody's called to foster and not everybody's called to adopt. And the other little boy on the other side of the screen who's got the exact same rap sheet, psychotropic meds, abuse, moves, identical rap sheet, except for he turns 18 years old and there's nobody there to quote unquote rescue him, if you will. And so he just leaves the residential treatment center. And because he's moved so many times, doesn't have things like a driver's license, a bank account. He's lost important paperwork like Social Security, birth certificate. And he just begins to walk. And I remember, the judge saying, like, imagine on your scariest, worst day of your life, and you grab your cell phone to call somebody, but there are no numbers in your phone. That is what it is like for children who age out at 18 years old. And the little boy has no hope. And he just begins to walk aimlessly. And he walks and he walks and walks until he can find the nearest freeway, and he throws himself in front of an 18-wheeler and he commits suicide. And this soft-spoken judge, so emotional about this, with tears in his eyes, says, not everybody's called to foster and not everybody's called to adopt, but everyone can play a role and make a difference in a child's life. And we should do everything in our power to ensure that this is not the way that children experience foster care. And Sarah, it was a moment in my life where I literally sat there in the classroom with tears down my cheeks, rolling down my cheeks. And I just thought, now I'm a woman of faith and believed that God had said to me in that moment, now this is your burden to bear and I want you to do something about it. And I was so stunned at what I was learning in this classroom, that the majority of kids who go through the system end up, as a statistic that says 50% don't graduate high school, 97% don't earn a college degree, and so on and so on and so on. And I just thought, I believe that we can do better. And so I left that conference a different woman than I came in. And I just said, I want to change the experience for kids and for families. And that's how you and I got connected all those years ago.
Yeah. So what did you do?
So what I did was started to call every single foster care placement agency in Central Texas. And I was like, hi, I'd like to help you. And they're like,
I know.
And they're like, I don't even know what that means, you crazy lady. But there was this woman named Sarah McCardo who said, I'm interested. What do you have in mind? And I said, well, let me just throw some service projects for your family, like a Christmas event, like a barbecue, a picnic, Thanksgiving, back to school event. Let me just figure out a way to walk alongside families in this really unique way. And we did that for 3 years. And this real wrestling in my heart said, this is good and this is sweet. But the truth is that it's very fleeting. And you're not actually building relationships, nor are you changing any statistic. And so I called you back and I said, Sarah, I would like to walk alongside a family who's really struggling in their foster journey. And I just want to love on them very intentionally. I want to stop all service projects. And you said, I've got somebody in mind, and her name is Esther, and she's raising 6 teenage boys, and man, could she use the help. And so I think you had called Esther, and then I had been given Esther's number, but of course I knew her because I was already, pretty frequently doing these great events through the placement agency. And I said, hey, Esther, my name is Susan. I don't know what this is going to look like, but if you'll just allow me to come into your home and love on you and the boys in a really intentional way, man, I'd be so honored. And she said, Susan, I have fostered over 50 boys in my home, and no one has ever said, can I help you? And so I don't know what your help is going to look like, but yes, you can help us. And I remember the first few months I showed up over there and I was still working full time. And I said to Esther, okay, listen, I'm going to be placing an order at boxed.com, which is like an online Costco. What kind of household supplies? You've got 6 teenage boys. You're running through things like toilet paper, paper towels, boxes of cereal. I know you are. So what can I get you? And she said, Susan, just anything will be helpful. And that went on for about 3 months. And this was prior to COVID. And I remember these boys. And so I would get these, everything was in jumbo. So I would get this jumbo thing of like hand sanitizer. And about month 3, I knew that we were starting to form a real bond in relationship because Esther says, I had shown up with the box that day and she said, Susan, damn, there is enough hand sanitizer that I can bathe these boys in it. Like enough with the hand sanitizer. And I said, finally, we're getting somewhere. Like, great, excellent. So you actually tell me what it is that I can support your family with, and I'll stop doing this guessing game and like tell me exactly what you need. And so we started to really form a bond in relationship. And she would say, you know what, I need this. This would be helpful. And so I would bring these boxes into her home and she would say, here comes my love box. And, oh, there's my love box. And I would say, yes, here is your love box. And so, what's crazy was that I had no clue that would turn into a national organization operating in 19 cities across 14 states, of which serves 3,000 children on a monthly basis. All started by Esther and I starting to do life together. And there were just so many incredible stories of transformation that was taking place in that home. My life was being transformed, Esther's life, those 6 teenage boys, and knew that we had a program that was transforming the foster care experience, and just thought at the end of this pilot, I believe that every single caregiver should be radically supported in their journey, and that every single child should have at least one more healthy adult who knows the color of their eyes and the passions of their heart, and do everything in their power to remove barriers so that children are reaching their fullest potential. And so this pilot and this idea of how do we walk alongside, it was done in such a unique, I like to say, we're not a one size fits all, we're a one size fits one. And meeting unique needs of every unique, gifted, beautiful children and families. And it started with a simple enough with the hand sanitizer and and a box filled with goodies that became the conduit for a foundation of love and mutual respect and belonging and community and empowerment and all these beautiful things. So
well, let me back you up. Let me back you up a little bit, because I have to go back to, I vividly remember the day that you called me. And for those working in foster care, they will resonate with this. We get a lot of calls of people saying like, I want to help and I want to do this. And in our organization, which is why I think we were such a good match, is that the best and excellence were the only options for our kids. And so people would come by and they would drop off like a bag of used clothes. I mean, there might even be a dirty diaper in there and stuff like that.
No, thank you.
So when we sit back and we're like, oh gosh, here comes, another well-intentioned person, but they don't understand our kids. They don't understand our mission. And I remember vividly saying to Patty Gross, I'm going to go meet with this lady. I don't know, but something feels a little different. And Patty was like, look, just don't sign us up. Like, do not sign us up for, things that cause us more work.
That's right.
Because that is what oftentimes, and you probably understand this in even greater capacity now, but sometimes volunteers cost you a lot of work and a lot of repair work. And so I remember meeting you and going back to the office and I was like, oh, Patty, we're going to work. Like, we are going to work because Susan is going to make us work but it's good. And she's not going to do it halfway. But I do remember that moment of being like, oh dear, like this woman is really excited. And that is one thing that has never once changed about you, is your level of enthusiasm and expectation for, like, in whatever way, like whatever capacity National Angels was in the moment, it was always with an enormous amount of enthusiasm to do the best we can possibly do for the kids and the families. Because even at that point, we were still learning so much. I mean, we're constantly learning about the kids and their experiences and how it impacts them. But I think about like giving a foster parent a voice, like the moment where Esther says, look, I don't know what even to do with the hand sanitizer, because these families are so used to at this point in time having to just take what they could get. Like I'll just stockpile that and but to have that felt safety in the relationship, to have the connection and to be able to say like thank you, but no thank you, because that's actually not meeting my need. So when you say like, you know, one of the things on our mantra is to see the need and meet the need.
Yes.
It's not to do what feels good to me as the giver. It's to say, let me see what this family needs. Let me see from the parent's perspective what this child actually needs. Like, what is this behavior telling me about what the need is, as opposed to just like, you need more discipline, you need to play a sport, you need to go to college, you need to sit in the corner, you need to be quiet, you need to be still, right? Like, it's like, actually, that little body needs to move, is what that body needs, right? And so the idea of coming in knowing that our families, who are really in a lot of ways as equally vulnerable as our children, because their work they're doing is so incredibly hard and it's like soul bearing work, right? And so to have somebody wrap around and say like, we love you, you matter, what you're doing matters, and it's too hard to do it by yourself, so let us come alongside, is really like see the need, meet the need in a nutshell. And it's
That's exactly.
not about the giver, right? Like it's just what you said, your friend said that took you to the conference. Like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if this could be about you, but it's not about you. Turns out.
Exactly.
Boy, that's a tough pill to swallow because we look, all of our intentions are great. We're all trying to show up to do the right thing. That's nothing new.
Well, I love that so much. And I feel like, man, we could just dig in on that just alone because there are so many incredible stories of meeting people exactly where they are with exactly what they need. And so our approach to this Love Box program, it's called Love Box, but it looks very different home to home and household to household. And I think what makes our program so unique and special, Sarah, is that we've got these case managers who will do intakes of you said well-intentioned volunteers, but kind of, trying to understand their passion around why do you want to help, doing a deep dive and saying, what does it look like for you? What does good look like for you in terms of being paired with somebody? What do you have the ability to give? And what are you looking in return to receive out of this experience? And we do the same thing. We call them strength assessments for families, where we sit down with caregivers and we say, where are you killing it? Where are you really doing an amazing job? And then where are there opportunities for us to kind of fill in the gap, whatever that looks like? And it could look like a single foster mom who's like, listen, I just got placed with a brand new baby and I need somebody to come over and rock my baby 3 days a week so I can do laundry. Great. So when we're doing the matching, we're identifying exactly what it could do to help move the needle forward for a caregiver that says, I can foster a little longer because I have the support. Or it could look like we're a young couple and we're super busy running kids here and there. We need help with transportation. And so what makes our program so unique, and I've said this over and over again, but it's like that unique one-to-one identifying what do you uniquely, where are you killing it, and where are there gaps for us to fill that need, whether that's financial, emotional, going to court, dropping, being your go-to one person for respite care over and over and over again, and pairing people to do life with each other. I've never in my life been a part of another organization that breaks down the otherness quite like our organization, pairing people to do life so uniquely with one another. And it's just really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, it's really neat to see for sure. Tell us about your programs.
Yeah, so Love Box program kind of already did, but it's just matching people in the same zip code with the same scope of need and capability to meet those needs. So we do kind of like a match.com algorithm where we're pairing people. And the reason why the zip code is so important is because in our Love Box program, it's a minimum of one visit a month for 12 months. But many of our, the goal of our program is relational permanence. And that takes time to build trust and relationship. It took me 3 months, probably 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 visits with Esther before she actually was like, no to the hand sanitizer.
Right.
So it takes time to build bond and relationships. And so, we say it's a minimum of a year commitment. Our average amount of time people will spend with their families and kids in the formal program is 3.4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 3.4 years, but it looks like long-term relational permanence that, perhaps the reason why it has ended formally is because adoption has taken place or because children have gone back, there's a whole slew of reasons.
Sure.
But so many of our people are on, like we've got people 6 years in the program, 7 years in the program, which is just, it's amazing. So the Love Box program is to meet intentional giving, relationship building, mentorship, and we pair people to do life in that way. That's our Love Box program. And we do that all over the country in our 19 cities where we're currently operating in. And then our Dare to Dream program is a one-to-one mentorship program with youth ages 11 to 22 that are experiencing foster care. And they have to hit various milestones. So we talked about earlier, ensuring that they have a driver's license, opening up a bank account, understanding financial literacy, and an adult navigating all the complexities of foster care and really making sure that they're prepared as well as possible for independent living after they aged out. So everything from if the youth wants to go to college, then having an opportunity with their mentor to go do college tours and visits, understand how to fill out college applications and navigating all of that. But maybe they want to go into a branch of service. And so the mentor working with that youth to identify which branch would be right for you. Let's go meet different recruiters. Let's see what's possible, or a trade, and so many opportunities within the trade.
Gosh.
So, we really believe in this bottom up approach. Nobody should be, pushing an agenda down from the top, but really looking at that youth and saying, gosh, you've got so many different opportunities. Which route do you want to go? And if they're like, man, I don't know. It's like, well, then let's expose you to everything and let's just do the research together. And we're real big in empowerment. And the way that we define that core value is to remove barriers. And so what that could look like is not filling out the college application for the youth, but to sit next to the youth and have the youth drive, meaning, okay, well, let's look at other different colleges. Okay, this is how you use Google. This is how you go navigate. Having the youth actually be the driver and giving them those skills, not doing it for them, but equipping them and empowering them that to know how to navigate some of, life's real challenges.
I can remember like when my kids were like approaching college and they were so scared of that stuff.
Yeah.
And they had me. Like, I mean, that's not necessarily the greatest gift they could have had, but they had, a regulator sitting right next to them, explaining it to them. They didn't have to seek it elsewhere or go outside of this, our home environment.
Right.
And they were like, I can remember being like, making a date with them. Like, listen, we're going to go get a brunch or lunch or something, and we're going to sit and we're going to do this, because like they were so terrified to do it. And I imagine that our youth experiencing foster care, the idea of trying, these kids live in systems. They become masters of systems that they live within, but systems that they don't live within are incredibly terrifying, right? And so to have somebody come alongside and say, like, let me help you apply for your driver's license.
That's right.
Right. Let me help you open a bank account. Right. Let me help you do these things. It's like those kids don't even have a dream for a driver's license. And now they've got somebody coming alongside saying, you're worth it.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
need a driver's license. Like,
yes.
This is, what do you mean you don't have to dream of it, because we're going to do it.
That's
right.
right.
Like this is coming in, and it's like the ultimate level of co-regulation in a very high stress time. And, those things come moment after moment after moment in those teenage years, right? Like it's like every single day is an opportunity for something new. And if you don't have it, right, like we know what happens. If we don't give some kids somebody to go to, they will find somebody to go to. And some of those people are more proficient at relationships than we are. So we really have to up our game if we want them to come sit with us to do these things. And it sounds like relationally, you guys have got it figured out in a really unique way. And I think it goes back to you saying, like, I listened to Dr. Purvis and she just made sense out of what we were doing. Right. Like, so I want to ask you, you guys, TBRI's foundation and how you guys operate and what you guys do, but you're in a unique position in that you are not a TBRI practitioner. You saw the value in other people doing that. And we talk about this a lot of time with our orgs. Like, it's really important to pick the right people to be the practitioner. And so one of the things I love about you is you saying, like, yeah, I want that. I want to do that, but I don't think that meets our need the best way, which means it doesn't serve our kids and families with excellence. So will you tell me a little bit about how you decided who should be practitioners, who shouldn't, and kind of the why behind that?
Yeah, so it was very early on. We knew that our programs, I mean, they are informed by TBRI, and every
Mm-hmm.
single case
Mm-hmm.
manager that we have nationwide, we have them come to Austin, which we're headquartered out of. So we have every case manager will fly in, and they are trained and empowered both through the Angels curriculum as well as informed through TBRI. And it's a 3-day intensive training, and we do it both virtually, where they can do all of their kind of classroom work, if you will, virtually, and then they fly to Austin. We have in our organization what we call nationally a program success manager. And she is a TBRI brilliant practitioner. She is the head of our programs nationwide. And it is important to me that the person that is overseeing the health and well-being of our programs nationwide has that. Now, I have chosen not to go down that route. As the CEO of this organization, I always like to say that running a nonprofit is no different than running a for-profit, other than a tax code, you know? And so for me, I have these great experts at the head of every single department. So our CFO has an MBA and an accountant degree, and so brilliantly equipped to know exactly how to run our business financially in a way that I don't have that giftedness. And I'm not wired that way, but I have best in class at the very top of that department. And the same thing with our programs. I mean, we're talking world-class, brilliant human being over programs, best in class over marketing, best in class over development. And so I think my job as the CEO is to just kind of get out of their way. And just like, our empowerment model to remove barriers, I find that my job is to sit with my leaders and to say, where are their barriers and how can I help you effectively think through removing them? But I am not the expert, but I hire experts to be able to do that. And my belief is that when you are a leader that's trying to be all things and do all things, then you probably are less equipped to really be able to move the needle forward in your business. And I have such a grandiose vision. I mean, I have a massive vision, and that is to reach and serve every single child, youth, and family that's experiencing foster care in our country by 2050. So while TBRI is the lifeblood of what we do, me and my role, I would say I need to be informed, but I don't have to know every single facet. And if I'm doing a good job of delegating and equipping, empowering, and giving every tool and resource needed, I don't believe that I need that education to do my job effective.
I have goosebumps. I just think it's really brilliant, because I think the idea of saying this is a core, this is a non-negotiable. We're doing TBRI. Our kids and our families and our team will experience TBRI on the daily. But that doesn't mean that it comes from you because that's how you operate, but it doesn't have to come from you. And you're not going to go out and train your team. That's why you have your expert to do that, right? And so I just think it's absolutely brilliant. One of our practice principles is humility and grit. And I think it takes a certain amount of humility to say, I need to hire the experts to do what we need to do. I don't have to be the expert in everything. And it sounds counterintuitive to say that that's humility, but it actually is if you're in that CEO position, because sometimes I think our CEOs and our executive directors and whatever you want to call that position, they put so much pressure to be all and know all, and you can't. You actually have to know how to empower people and run an organization and have the right people, the right people in the right seats on the bus. And I think it's absolutely brilliant the way you've laid it out. And I hope that other people will hear this and really strategically think about, like, who do we need to send to this training? Like, we know it's valuable. We have to have it. We want it. It's integral to what we're doing. But that doesn't mean that I have to be the practitioner. That means I have to find the right person to do that. And I just think it's just absolutely brilliant the way that you've done that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. If somebody, I know you've told me, like, we're in a bit of a holding pattern, but if somebody is interested and you operate, so tell us how National Angels operates with the different
regional chapters.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yep, we're like the Catholic Church. We have a group exemption. And so basically what that means is we really are looking for individuals around the country who has a heart to change foster care. And it really is transformation that we're after. So while there are so many incredible, amazing organizations that does things are important, and we do some things too. The Love Box program is filled with things. Right. We are not transactional. We're not a transactional organization. We're a transformational organization. And that takes a different kind of thought leader, because a lot of leaders that come into the space that want to do foster care, it's like, well, we want to do things. But we really measure our success on, well, we've got some sophisticated key performance indicators and metrics that say, are we actually doing the work of transformation or are we not? But we're looking for individuals who really want to get to the root of having to change some of the outcomes and some of the statistics. In fact, one of my most favorite quotes is by Desmond Tutu, who says, there comes a point in time where we have to stop pulling people out of the river. We have to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And for us, we're looking for a specific leader that's entrepreneurial, that has a real passion for changing outcomes for kids and families experiencing foster care. And when we find that right leader in the right community, what we know is that foster care is in a crisis in every city across the country. And that we have such a unique approach to how we do relationships in life that if we find the right leader, we know that the city would be, that we've done some market research and we know that there is need for us in that area, then we would have that leader form their own board and we would send them through several trainings. They would come to home office and then it's about a year process, and then they would get to launch their chapter and meet the unique needs of kids in their own community. And I think I said this, like, we very much believe in a bottom-up approach. So, we've got 19 chapters, and one of our chapters, I'll just say, Cleveland Angels, for example. So every regional chapter is named after the area that they're in. So Austin Angels, Dallas Fort Worth Angels, Seattle Angels, so on and so forth. So we believe so deeply that people in that area will know the foster care landscape in a way that we don't. So while we give a framework and a benchmark of standards that we expect for the local team and leader to make their own kind of business decisions to meet the unique needs. So I'll give you an example. Still to this day in Austin Angels still does a big, massive back to school event, and we serve 400, people at our back to school event. And it's something that here in Austin we will continue to do because there's a need for that kind of support. Well, in Seattle, they don't do any service projects whatsoever. They only do Love Box and Dare to Dream, 0 service projects, because there's another incredible organization in the Seattle community that's all they do. And Brilliant. So we want to make sure that we are uniquely meeting needs in the communities and the cities where we are. And so what I would say for anybody who has this wrestling in their heart that they want to go deeper, I would invite them to go to our website, nationalangels.org, and fill out an inquiry kind of request. And then you would talk to, on our team, we've got these brilliant chapter success managers is what they're called. and they could tell you about what it looks like. And we've closed our applications down. And I like to describe our business model as trying to become the Chick-fil-A of nonprofits, where the chicken sandwich tastes the same no matter what city you're in. The branding is the same, the support that they get. So when I say Chick-fil-A of nonprofits, that's what I mean. Just from that, what we are hopeful for is that our programs, the results and the measurement, the data that we're getting from our program transcends out of Austin and into every regional chapter. So there is this massive amount of support that they get from home office, everything from leadership training and development, from development and marketing, fundraising and marketing support, programmatic support. I talked about my program success manager. We train and equip every single case manager. And then locally, they have to raise their own dollars to be able to support their own regional chapter. And so it's an incredible business model. And it's, we are so lucky because we have some of the most talented and equipped leaders doing the best that they can to serve the kids in their community in the most beautiful way and building partnerships. And so I would just say they can visit nationalangels.org and get in touch with us.
Okay. And we will link that in the show notes too, for people to be able to access easily. Man, Susan, it is so fun. And I think if I remember correctly, you told me that something important happened this week, but you didn't share what. So can you share that?
Yes. Yes. So that's why I just went like, oh my God, I forgot to tell you before we wrap up. So I just been invited to join the collaborative council of like the Texas Supreme Court. All the judges in the state of Texas have this collaborative council, and I was invited to apply it. And so I just applied to be on this kind of council. But the guy that had referred me is a gentleman that has been in the child welfare for 50 years. And he says, Susan, we're looking for a person to join this council. And I said, well, this feels very full circle for me because it was a judge that changed my life. And next year we will be on our 15th year. And that judge actually has no clue the seed that he planted in my heart. I was in his classroom and he had no clue that he did that. And he said to me, I just want to make it my duty to find Judge Hathaway. The judge.
I knew it was Judge Hathaway. I knew it was him.
Yep. So I said, oh my gosh, this would be such a treat for me if I had the opportunity to tell this man 14 years later what he meant to me. And so I am not kidding you. 3 days ago, I got to sit with him. And when my marketing team heard that we were going to be doing this, they said, oh my gosh, Susan, is there any way we can get this on film? We have to get this on film. And so the guy that had connected us had said, hey, Judge Hathaway, I know this is an awkward request, but anyway, we can get this on film because next year they're going to be doing their 15th year. And they want to do a little documentary on what it's been like building this organization over the last 15 years. And he said, sure, yeah, you can do that. I need to get a haircut first. And I don't know anything about being on camera or social media or anything, but yeah. And I'm telling you, Sarah, when he walked in the door, he said, Susan, just this warm embrace. And I said, hey, listen, I appreciate you being on camera. And I know this is kind of awkward and weird, but there's nothing that you can say that we can't cut out or edit it. If you don't feel comfortable, we're just going to have a conversation. He said, great. Well, my team had already set up all the cameras and everything. It's all kind of a little intimidating. Sure. Yeah. So we sat down, and literally right when we sat down, I took a deep breath. And I just started to bawl and crying because I'm like, how do I tell this man this seed that he has planted in my heart and what it is today because of a story that he told over these two little boys? And I said, you're not even probably going to remember this story. And in fact, he said, I don't remember this conference. I don't remember. I said, this is another day for you. And I said, but you told a story of two little boys, and his eyes filled up with tears. And he goes, I know what you're about to tell me. I know the two little boys. And I said, the little boy on the left-hand side, he goes, no, I don't remember that boy. And I told him I said, but the little boy on the right-hand side, he goes, that's the boy that I remember. Yeah. And I said, do you remember his name? And he said, yes. And I said, what was his name? And he said, Jaime. And I said, well, Jaime's life was not for nothing. You told a story of Jaime's life, and now 3,000 children are being impacted, that his life was not in vain, but we did something remarkable because of that young man. And man, what a full circle moment for me. And so cool. So cool.
I love that. And I think it just goes to the power of, when we just show up where we're supposed to, with the things we're supposed to show up with. And, it just, we have so many opportunities to just be right in the moment. And you didn't show up for the big picture. I mean, I remember our first conversation. It was like, I just want to do a back to school event or a Christmas party or something. And I'm like, well, that's great. We need a lot of help right there. We didn't even know we needed the help that was to come, right? Because that hadn't been done before. Susan, you were just a delight. And it just brings me so much joy to have this conversation. It feels so full circle. It's, so fun. I mean, I sent you a picture recently of my girls 12 years ago in their little Austin Angels shirts, and to know like that all across the country, people are being impacted by your vision and your heart and your desire for these kids to receive excellence is just overwhelming. Thank you for being here today.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure, my honor, and I love you so much, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I'll come back.
Okay, perfect. It's a date. All right. Thank you, Susan.
Bye-bye.
The TBRI podcast is produced by the Care and Purpose Institute of Child Development at TCU. To learn more about TBRI and the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit child.tcu.edu/podcast.